Hello there, welcome back to another episode of Strife's Talking Points, and in this I'm going to try and go through the aftermath. After this weekend, most people in the U.S. already know there were two mass shootings, one in El Paso, Texas, one in Dayton, Ohio, and some people try to lump in the shootings in Chicago, which those were game or crime related, and when you look at mass shootings, it is very, very important that you separate general criminal behavior from the one-off mass shooters, mass murders, and so I'm not going to cover the one anything in related to the Chicago shooting. And a lot of this video is going to focus on how we see the U.S. Media, political operators, politicians, government, all kind of circle around this idea of the blame game. It's very popular in the U.S. to play the blame game because if you can blame the other side, that means you're free of cause. You've nothing to blame yourself because the other people made it happen. And as always, before I begin, please like, share, comment, subscribe on the video. This will just take a few minutes. I don't see this being an extremely long, rambling video. But here we go. The U.S. headlines. This is just from a few moments ago on Google. Trump undercuts plea for unity with return to political attacks. That is a report from CNN, updated an hour ago. I went and looked at this, and basically what happened is Trump flew in to Dayton, Ohio, to speak to the victims, the survivors, and Trump called for unity. After that, in the wake of the two mass shootings, he called for unity, he called to rise above, let's come together. And immediately, places like the New York Times tried to write an article and title it that way. They received pushback from the left, and they were forced to change the headline. Go look that up. That's another thing there I'm not wanting to really get into because that'll just drag away from this. Traveling from Texas to Ohio, Trump's top aides disputed the way Ohio Democratic officials characterized Trump's visit, even though Ohio Senator Sherry Broad said the president was well received. Now, they had one person they can quote saying that. However, the White House Director of Social Media, Dan Scavino, claimed that Dayton Mayor Nathan Wally and Brown were lying, completely mischaracterizing what took place with the president's visit to the Miami Valley Hospital. Grisham accused Brown and Whale of not acknowledging that the families, victims, medical staff, first responders were so happy to have the president and first lady visit the hospital. It's disgusting, she told CNN. And you know, they kind of go through it real quick here. After the attacks, of course, CNN through their homepage would be demonizing the president because that is what they're doing. I mean, that is pretty much all they do. Back on the attack, Trump undercuts unity for plea, even though Beto O'Rourke, most of the liberal left, far left media, can't even call them left anymore, they've gone far left, really came after the president for this attack. Now, the unique thing about the Dayton shooter is, from what I've been able to gather and from what I've been reading and seeing and hearing, is that he was more of a socialist. This is a left-wing shooter. Now, I will always kind of dispute that, you know, the Nazis, they call them far right. That's a form of authoritarianism. It's just an offshoot. It's sort of the polar opposite of communism, but it's definitely an authoritarian type of belief, which I've always said the farthest right you would get would be like anarchists, people who generally want no government, no anything. That would be my vision of how you would go extremely far right. And with any of these groups, labeling isn't extremely important when it's how they think as a group, how they believe, how they go. This Daytona shooter has basically evidence emerged. He previously expressed a desire to commit a mass shooting and had a history of violent ideologies. Now, his history of violent ideologies that I've seen, that I've looked up, show him more as a socialist. He was trying to get into the the socialist gun club to be trained how to go on the offensive, how to do these things. And I believe that's a picture of his girlfriend there, ex-girlfriend. Went into a nightclub and just started shooting people. Now, this is one of those interesting things. You don't see a big push on this guy overall in the way the news is kind of chasing after this. The big push is the El Paso shooting, and I'll just scroll some headlines right here, where I saw earlier that groups have been going after 8chan, a messaging board. It is very unique that anything that allows anybody to speak, that they are vehemently opposed by most people on the left by this new ideology. I'm guessing it's gone away since I looked last. We're going to do a real quick search here. I'm sorry. There it is. Enough is enough. Cloudflare terminates 8chan, an online meeting place for extremist hate. Now, you don't see that this type of attack goes on for Facebook, goes on for Twitter. I think as you're going to learn more and more about the Daytona shooter, you're going to see Facebook and Twitter, these groups which are quickly mobilizing people on the left. Really got them in these far left bubbles where they don't understand what socialism is. They don't know how communism works. They don't understand totalitarianism. They don't understand basic economic life or facts, or how any community is actually born and becomes successful. However, places like 8chan, 4chan, all these different, even how to go after the Daily Stormer, it's places that allow free speech. As you force people out of certain areas, you gradually push them further and further out. And right now, you've got to think that we're probably less than 6 months away from most of the stuff that Obama did being considered extreme far right. I've already heard and witnessed many times, you can see it in the last debate, where Obama's policies are thought of as right-wing policies. Anyone to the right of whatever person is speaking is going to be the Nazi. They are going to be extreme far-right people. Even if you're a standard moderate, and let's say of all the things you disagree that abortion or something like that. And they're attacking the sites directly, going after them, shutting them down. Keep in mind that 8chan had some Vice reporters break into this house illegally because he refused to do an interview with them, so they broke into his home. Very unique. In El Paso, you saw Better or Work go and meet with a few people, going after what you can say as, sorry, now that I've lost all my stuff here, you see Beto O'Rourke going there and saying, hey, these people don't want you here, they don't like you here, because he was able to find a handful of people. Beto O'Rourke, of course, the man who lost the election in Texas to Ted Cruz, Donald Trump, who won Texas pretty well, and who has also had his own rallies in El Paso where he had thousands of people attend that are his supporters. You see the idea that the invasion, as Trump has stated, as, and I don't know how you would frame it. Let's say you live in a country and every month 100,000 people from foreign countries walk across your border illegally and don't plan on merging into your society. They plan on keeping themselves separate, making money or receiving the free services your government allows, and then sending the money they make back home. thereby dragging down your lower working class, making the poor poorer, extracting money from everyone else in the form of tax benefits, and then disappearing. This is a problem. I mean, it was a problem 8 years ago, it was a problem 20 years ago, it's still a problem. Ignoring it, saying it's not an issue, will not solve it. And, you know, at the moment, I'm hoping that they keep the amnesty ideas off of it. But there you go. The shooter in Texas, purely a white nationalist, a right-wing terrorist, as he's been labeled. Most definitely that seems to be the case. I mean, he even released a manifesto. And, you know, we've got to look into mental health issues in this country. We've really, 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 though, got to dial down the rhetoric. If every news site is pushing, let's take a look here at MSN. They are linking everything they can to show Trump it's a bad person. Here is an image here. There's a story about Rep. Castro, who actually released the names of Trump donors in Texas so that they could be harassed. He doxed people. He released private citizens' information publicly, and he is now on television talking about these issues. Why it's a good thing. How much can you do it? Booker, hopefully soon to be out of the presidential race because he is not a very good candidate. Anti-Latino hatred didn't start with the hand that pulled the trigger, says the man in the party that is all about race and gender. You keep seeing these false quotes, you know, good people on both sides quote, where he was referring to the dozens of groups, President Trump, was referring to the dozens of groups that were at the Charlottesville rally. Not everybody there was a white nationalist. Not everybody there was Antifa. There were dozens of separate groups there. Of course, once they hear he says that, and it goes on at the end to condemn white nationalists, to condemn hate groups, to condemn those things, doesn't matter. They've got the soundbite. Anytime you see anytime I watch an interview or a debate, I always watch for the sound bites. They're always trying to clip these small 5-second, 6-second pieces just so they can have a short statement that they can use to promote or demote you depending on how they feel about you at that day. Yeah. What you've got here, one good line. Trump calls blaming video games for gun violence absurd. That's Pete Buttigieg said that. Now what's really unique is you have all these people on the left, all this media, all these journalists spinning around 180 from where they were a few weeks or a few months ago, blaming video games, blaming gamers, blaming all this content for causing these issues. Now because Trump said it, they've got to take it back. They've got to backpedal. It is an insane thing to watch, but they are doing it. It is just the craziest thing. And here's something that I thought was really strange. This will be the final part. After this, we'll let y'all go. Ivanka Trump posted this picture of her and her children starting their weekend. Her two sons look really cute, riding on a thing. Keep in mind, she is now Jewish. Her children are the son of a Jew, daughter of a Jew. Her sons are Jewish, and then let the left anti-Semitic attacks go. And what do? They go after her and her family, telling her that she shouldn't be happy, that she shouldn't enjoy her life. And then, of course, Instagram attacks her. And this is the AOL lead story, or one of the AOL lead stories. Sorry, I'm going to try to catch some audio. Ivanka Trump slammed after sharing new photo of her kids in the wake of 2 mass shootings. Nothing to say. I don't care what celebrities say about events. They don't matter. You know what entertainers and celebrities are to do? They're to entertain you. I care about what politicians say, what lawmakers say, what police say. Trump administration has taken to Twitter Following the shootings, condemning the unspeakable acts of evil, Republicans and Democrats must come together and get strong background checks, perhaps marrying this legislation with desperately needed immigration reform. President Trump tweeted in response to the attacks. Great. She's having a weekend with her kids. Does she have to be everywhere for everything? No. She is not an elected official. She may hold some position for her father, for the government. She may be someone he uses to go and speak for him because this or that. But when he can speak for himself, and he does speak for himself, I really don't care. Now, that's just my feelings. Please like, share, comment, and subscribe below. But really and truly, if you go and look at this stuff, you'll see the Daytona shooter is what appears to be, and you see it here on Fox News and a couple other, they're calling it. They're actually going to say this guy was a left-winger. Don't blame people on the left for that, as you know, the sarcasm in that. Because what you're seeing is the right-wing extremists, the neo-Nazis, white supremacists, these guys have always been violent. They've always been successfully violent. They've killed lots of people. This left-wing extremism is a little newer to the U.S. Antifa's rise, where 3 years ago they were violent protesting, beating people up in the streets, setting cars on fire at Berkeley, burning things, smashing. They've moved here in the recent months to throwing milkshakes at people, and the police reports we've seen out of Portland where that they were mixing up Quikrete and throwing it at people. That's a police report. That's not conjecture. That's what the police stated. Beating up the gay journalist. They've also routinely beat anyone who disagrees with them. They throw things. They're violent protesters, on and on and on. And this may be the first turn where Antifa is actually going out and killing people. It's very likely that this could just be the first of many, and that's always my worry. My worry is that once Antifa breaks loose and starts shooting people, murdering people in the street, the media, which has supported them, Twitter supports them, Facebook supports them, your general college and university support this type of behavior, that will be the floodgate. That once that comes out, and that's what's going to be the new norm, is you will have massive left-wing violence, and we're seeing kind of the build-up like you would have if you had been alive during the first half of the 20th century, where you see these the far left running. And right now the far left has huge support in media, in government, in colleges. They are structurally sound. They have the power, and it's all in how they're going to use it now. Let's hope he's the only one and this doesn't become a trend, but if it does, God help us all. Thank you for listening, and enjoy the rest of your day.